Welcome to episode 227 of the Prosperity Practice, the podcast that has you living your best life. This is Danielle Amos, and I am your host. Today, I have a guest on my show. And what's interesting is I recorded this episode with Clare Garner, and I communicated that I wasn't sure where my podcast was going. And let's record it anyway so that we can get her message out to our audience. And she communicated the same thing with me, that she was going through change. And we found it really interesting when there's moments of uncertainty and how you actually just be okay with the change. So I know you're going to absolutely find so much value in this conversation between Clare and I. Let me tell you a little bit about her. So Clare and I met online. She's also a coach. But what I love most about her is that she's launched several six-figure businesses along her journey. She's been an entrepreneur for over a decade. She lives in the UK and she is super passionate about helping women. And what I love is because of her experience in business, she's quite well versed in the strategy side. And so has always been told she's been too much in her life. And when she embraced it, this too muchness, her entire world changed, her results changed. And when Clare told me this, it became obvious to me as to why, because self-image. You'll never outperform your own self-image. You've heard me say that before. And as an expert in identity and self-image work, as soon as I heard Clare talk, she didn't know what she was talking, like what she had done, but what she had done is fully embraced who she truly is. And she transformed the belief about being too much, being a bad thing, into it being one of her superpowers. And this is the power of the work, the inside work of mindset, and especially around identity and self-image. And so she rewrote her story. And instead of being shamed for this too much energy, she celebrated it. So I know that you'll relate to her story. Enjoy this episode and go follow Clare on social media. All of her tags are in the show notes. And send us a message. Ask us any questions. Can you relate to this podcast? We'd love to hear from you. Enjoy. Welcome, Clare, to the Prosperity Practice. Thank you for being here and blessing our audience with your presence. How are you today?
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm really good, thank you.
So for everyone listening on the Prosperity Practice, Clare and I met a little while back. I was a guest on her podcast, and we had such a fabulous conversation. In fact, it was kind of challenging to wrap up, wasn't it? We could have talked for hours. So here we are continuing our conversation. So for those on the call that don't know you, could you share a little bit about your story, where you come from? And because I know you've made lots of transitions in your career, and then where you are now, and let's dive in.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just so funny with the timing. So if you'd asked me this 3 weeks ago when we were meant to record, it would have been very different. So I'm Claire. I've been an entrepreneur for a decade now. I started in corporate. I still have that corporate business to this day, and I've had other businesses in amongst the growth journey. I've had a crystal business, I've had coaching business, and I'm currently now kind of in a void. I'm having a bit of a like finding myself, self-exploration moment, and just really figuring out what my next move is, where I really want to go to, and not just doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff, like really being kind of thoughtful about where I put my energy moving forwards. So yeah, you've caught me right in the midst of it.
Amazing. I mean, what a great place to be, because you have such a clean slate. Like, you get to create it, and with the right questions, like asking what you love and following the intuitive guidance you get to build something really beautiful. And what I love about you, Clare, is that you've had so much success in what you've done before, and you've shut things down when they didn't make sense before. I know that from our previous conversation. And so like this isn't actually new for you. You know that you'll thrive no matter what you do. I have that sense about you. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, although I really would like to say, because I think this is important, it doesn't make it any less scary. And I think
Mm,
it's okay for us to feel like we've got ourselves, right? Like, I know that I'll be okay. I know that I'll figure it out. I know that this is part of the journey and this is something that I'll talk about in the future. But it still doesn't take
mhm,
away the fear and the self-doubt that creeps in, and as well, and I know we spoke about this a lot in our last podcast, but the feeling of lack coming
yeah.
in, because at the moment I'm not selling anything because I don't know what I'm selling. So it's like,
Yeah.
and yes, I'm okay and I have other businesses and stuff, but these are all just normal emotions that we all have to navigate. And for me, what has been really amazing through this last couple of weeks is I've started a little Telegram community, just a private chat for people who want to come behind the scenes with me. And I'm just really sharing like the realness, the rawness, the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows, the breakthroughs and the breakdowns of what's happening behind the scenes, just
Mhm.
to show that we are all human, right?
Yeah.
Like we all have to navigate shit, and just most people don't talk about it.
Yeah, and it's so normal, and it can feel very isolating because we don't talk about it and we wonder if something's wrong with us. And I find that if, you've had success and if you are in the public eye, it's like what's wrong now? Like she had it all together. Now what? Like, can
Yeah,
we try,
yeah.
trust? So I can so relate to that. I shared vulnerably on social media, not so much behind the scenes, but like very real posts. And I got asked, like, are you sure you want to do that? Like, don't you think that people aren't going to want to trust that you know what you're talking about if you're struggling?
Mm.
I was like, what? Like, that never crossed my mind that someone would judge that I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm in the messy middle.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, hello. We all have to navigate this. And for anyone that's portraying anything other than that, they're
Yeah,
just
it's
not
not real.
sharing the whole truth. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not real. It's like we all have dark moments. We all have moments when we question ourselves and where we've got to do the inner work ourselves, heal at the next level, next level, next level. And what I've noticed is the things that I thought I resolved. I don't know about you, but I thought I resolved them, but it's like they come back. It's like,
Yeah.
but not the same at the same level. They're at a different level. It's
Yeah.
almost like not for full circle. If I could like even make an infinity sign, because it's like at a higher,
Yes.
like an averted infinity sign, I'm like doing my journey. And then up here, oh, look, I'm parallel to where I was, a few years ago. It feels
Yeah.
very similar, and I know I'm not the same person. And we're like,
Yes.
okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Going through
Oh
this.
my God. That is so funny, Danielle, because I swear to God, this happened. What day is it today? This happened this morning, right? So I was doing some journaling and I've been really having some resistance to
Mhm.
doing the messy work, right? I've always been very good at it, but recently I've just been like, oh, I don't want to do it. All of that. Anyway, so I sat down, made myself do it. And I swear to God, I opened my journal. It wasn't the same date, but it was very, very close. But what I had written was literally what I said, virtually word for word to my mentor like last week.
Wow.
And it was nearly a year ago,
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow. And I read it and I know, like you said, I'm not the same person. It's a different way that I'm looking at it, but it was nearly word for word. And I was just like, wow, okay. Like so much has changed
Interesting.
and yet so much hasn't.
Hmm. What made you, if you don't mind me asking, what made you go into this period, this season of reflection and refinement and getting connected to what you truly desire?
I would be lying if I said that it was an easy decision
Hmm.
and that I kind of skipped merrily and happily into it. It wasn't like that. It was really an accumulation of about 3 weeks of feeling very, what's the right word? feeling very frustrated. And in my human design, I know that when I feel frustrated, that is not a good sign.
What's your human design?
I'm a generator.
Yeah.
3-6. And so I knew that something was off. And I was constantly falling back into old habits of comparison, of feeling inadequate, the lack of self-worth, of self-belief, like a lot of the old narratives coming up. And I was consuming a lot more than I was creating, which is an old habit that I used to have years ago. And I was like, this is not right. Like something is not right. So anyway, a few weeks of that happening, me literally breaking down to my mentor week after week after week. And I went to Turkey when we were meant to have our last podcast. So I was in Turkey, hardly any internet whilst I was out there. So I had to take a break. I was forced to take a break. And you know, that old saying of, if we don't take action, the universe will like take it for us.
Yeah.
So I had no choice really than to sit with myself. I couldn't scroll, I couldn't create, I couldn't really do anything other than, you know, God forbid, enjoy a holiday. And
Right. Yeah.
so when I was out there, I managed to get internet for like one day to speak to my mentor, because I had it was our day, and I wanted to talk to her, and I broke down. I was just like, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me. I don't know. I don't even know what I don't know. I don't know who I am. I don't know why I feel like this. It was just a whole shit show. And after about half an hour, she basically just kind of talked me around and made me realize that I was just so lost. I was just so lost in all the noise and in all the old programming and in what I really wanted to do with my life and what I'm here to do. And I just needed to step away from that and really find myself again. Hence, started using the hashtag Finding Clare and just starting to do that self-exploration work again.
Yeah, really good. That's really good. It's interesting that you were resisting doing the writing as well. And I think that for everyone listening, that's quite normal, because often we resist the thing that is going to make the biggest difference for us.
Yeah.
And I believe it's because of a part of our programming and the subconscious, the way that our unconscious mind, our subconscious mind, one of its prime directives is to keep us safe. And so change to the unconscious mind is not safe. And so if you doing this writing is going to give you clarity that ultimately will lead to change, somewhere deep down, you know that. And it's easier, although your don't sound very like you love being where you were.
Yes.
It's in some respects, it's like, this is what we do. A lot of humans do this, right? It's easier to settle, even though we say we don't like it, than to do the work that's going to create the change. And so people say all day, like, I'm sure you see this with the people you work with, like they say all day, like how they want to change, but then they're not willing to do it. And like for us, we even have a proven system, like we guarantee. And yet, like, I'm like, you just have to like do this with this feeling. And, you know, I know you'll get to where you want to go. And yet people resist it. And I'm like, that's just to watch. It's so interesting. And it's not a problem. It's like the human behavior. But it's really interesting when you think of what it means to be human, that we'd rather suffer in it.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
And it's so interesting. So when I first like started, I call it the void, right? But people can call it whatever they want. But like for me, it just feels like a void. It's like I have no idea how deep it goes or how long I'm gonna be here, or even where the light is yet. It's like sometimes I see it and then it disappears, and it's, you know, it's just the unknown, and it is uncomfortable. And yeah, it's so easy in this moment as well to slip back into like being busy for the sake of being busy, right? And exactly what you're saying, because this is uncomfortable, and you know the subconscious doesn't like it here. It's really freaking uncomfortable. I have to like everyone, like, you need to know this is not easy and it's not fun, I would say, right? And it's really interesting, the things that we resist, because I was saying to my mentor the other day, I was like, I actually don't know what to do with myself, you know, like I'm it's maybe a good problem to have, but I'm like, I've got all this time and I don't know what to do. If I'm not working, if I'm not creating, if I'm not being of service, like what the hell do I do?
Yeah.
She's like, go and live your life, Claire. And I'm like, I don't know how.
Right. And that's such a great indication as to probably why you're here, to go, what does living my life look like? Because the truth is, in the new paradigm that we're all building, the hard work isn't going to fly, right? So it is us serving, yes, serving, being of service and doing our work, but it comes through living our best lives. I really believe that. So now you're on the discovery of like, what is that? What lights me up?
Yeah,
So cool.
it's so interesting because I've always had this problem because I have like so many ideas all the time. And so
Generator in you.
my thing now is like not going head first into the first idea. And I kind of already done that a little bit. Like I started something already, but I'm not going head first. I'm not like, I'm burning everything down and I'm doing this. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to do a little bit. I'm going to put it out there for the universe and I'm going to wait until I get something to respond to from it. So I'm like, I'm being more, aware of how I'm being and kind of like looking for the synchronicities and seeing what is happening and not doing what I normally do and putting all of my eggs in one basket and just like jumping right in. I'm a bit more like, you know what? I need to honor this space at the moment. And yes, I can create and yes, I can answer the call and then I'm going to release it. And if it's meant to happen, it will happen. And I will know that because I will feel drawn to it. So I'm being a lot more like consciously aware of what I'm doing and what I'm putting my energy into. But I have to say, like, it sounds like the most ridiculous thing in the world if you've never experienced this, but knowing what to do with yourself when, you know, I've pretty much been a workaholic all of my life, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I can relate to that. And I know a lot of people in the audience can relate to it too. I tend to attract the A-type hardworking women that have had success, but they know that they're made for more. So like this kind of conversation is good because most people assume that the hard work or the success, the next level for them is going to come from even harder work. And the truth is, where you are right now, this void, it's like the white space. I don't know if you've read the book U Squared by Pritchett, but he talks about it's about quantum leaping. And he talks about the white space and how this void that you talk about is actually so important because when we're busy doing, it's our mind's too active and you can't actually hear your higher self, your inner being. So it's when you slow down, you'll get the nudges. And so it's really making sure that you are managing your energy of what you say to yourself while you're in the void, that like you're meant to be here, that it's safe to be here, that you enjoy it. And here's the thing, it's a season. It's not going to last forever. And I have a sneaky feeling, because this has happened to me, that when you're like really creating again, you might be like, oh, remember that time I was in the void? And what I invite you to do is to like take pockets of this void into this next level for you, because this white space being like a constant is actually what's recommended. You know, high level like achievers, billionaires, they're not working all the time.
I know. Yeah, it's so funny, in a non-funny way. But yeah, it's just that thing of, you know, we all know that the people at the top, the 1% say, you know, I don't work, you know, like I don't work hard, you know, I work smart, I don't work hard. We all know that, and yet we don't do that because we're so convinced that, okay, that's what they do now, but how did they get to that point? You know, like they did hard work to get to that point. And I think that there's a lot of misconception around that. And I feel like I'm experiencing it now. I'm like, okay, well, let's see the proof in the pudding, right? Let's see what's happening here.
Yeah. And here's the thing. It's like, I often hear, I teach this a lot. People say, well, of course they're comfortable, like the millionaires, the 1%, of course they're comfortable with money because they have it. And I said, nope, they were comfortable first.
Yeah.
They had the void, they had the white space. They loved the life. They were doing things that they love in life first. And so that's the formula. It is that chicken before the egg concept. And you get to try it on. Now, what's really important is to check in, do you believe that money can still come to you while you're in this void? Do you believe that you still get to feel the abundance that is your birthright here, and it's not a result of your doing? And that's going to be a huge thing. I have a question for you. What are some of the tools that you use when you're in this space of self-doubts? Like, what have you found works for you when you've got all the, like, that voice in your head that's really has you question?
Yeah. I mean, journaling is massive for me. It has
Yep.
been for a few years now. So that's always like my go-to. Hypnosis has also been a really pivotal thing for me. And it's funny because I actually stayed at a friend. We went to a wedding at the weekend and I stayed in her hotel and I didn't listen to anything because obviously we just like went to bed together. And I woke up in the morning and I could tell that my thoughts were different. I could tell that I was running on old programming with one night of not listening to it. And I was aware of it and I was like, wow. And it's funny because it's that thing of you don't necessarily know what it's doing until you stop it.
Yeah, totally.
And then you're like, oh, okay. But
That's
hypnosis
interesting.
is probably my biggest thing because I'm very aware and I have a very external viewpoint of my life and my thoughts, and I'm also a very lucid dreamer, so I'm like, I can remember a lot of my dreams. But when I'm in that transition stage of waking up, I'm very aware of what my thoughts are and what's happening here. And through this last couple of weeks, it's very much been things of like, what do I get to do today? How can I make today fun? Like very, very positive, affirming thoughts.
That's
And that,
awesome.
I have to say, has primarily been from hypnosis. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. The hypnosis, the sheer like repetition of that. I love Napoleon Hill's chapter on autosuggestion. Like, he does a great job of explaining why it's so important. And it's the same way we were programmed. So that's very cool that you listen to it at night.
Yeah, I love it.
Is it something that you've recorded or a hypnotherapist has
It's
recorded?
not, no, I've never actually recorded my own, but no, I use an app with a hypnotherapist, and there are like all different ones, right? So like
Very cool.
abundance, connecting with your higher self, inner child healing. Like I do a whole mix of them, but
That's awesome.
yeah, I've been doing that solidly every single night for over a year now.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that we teach in our community is we talk a lot about identity. So the transformation through self-image work and to embody this next level and like a belief. So I have clients record their own, but not in a way that's a hypnosis, but just the repetition. And then I, as a perk for some of the VIP clients or those that take fast action, I love to reward fast action. I'll record it with them and then use my background as a hypnotherapist in them so that it goes into the subconscious mind a little bit faster, which is very cool. I love that you use that. Well done. Good. I listen to mine a little more differently, not at night so much, but like when I go for walks or like I'm doing things around the house. So it's sort of just playing in the background. And I notice how, like, when I hear it, because I don't always know that, like, I don't always pay attention to it, but when I hear it, like, it really does get me in a new posture, like reminds me of what I'm committed to. So I love that.
I love that.
Yeah. And you're journaling. What do you journal specific questions or is it more freehand?
I've done a mix. So I've done like the standard kind of gratitude journaling for a long time. I don't do that so much now in this season. I've also done a lot of like the future journaling, so journaling from the future self and really solidifying what that version of me looks like and really getting clear on that vision. But at the moment, I'm really doing a lot of free journaling and just following the train of thought as to where it goes. A lot of shadow work, a lot of, you know, the kind of blocks that are coming up, the wounds that are coming to the surface, and really just following the thread, really, and just seeing where it goes and just navigating that through the pen and paper.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's very effective. Studies show that when we write, it causes the thinking. So you're able to like actually dive deep, and people think that they can sit there and think, but the truth is the way the mind is, it's all over the place. So when you actually write, you're really being intentional about it, even if it is free, like it's still causing that thinking rather than letting your monkey brain take over.
Yeah, and it's very, now you say that, it's really interesting because writing has been the biggest resistance, but also the biggest pull that I've had in this time. Like I found myself writing poems. I've never written a poem in my life. And I've literally written about 20 of them. Like it was like one after the other after the other. I was like, it's actually pretty good.
That's very cool.
Crazy. And then I've basically finished my first book. So I wrote like a whole book.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So this void has not been like nothing.
I know, but it's just kind of like channeling what is wanting to come through me. And I'm at the point now where I'm kind of like, okay, so I've done that. Now what? You know, and there is that sense of, again, it was keeping me busy. So I'm kind of honoring that. Okay, I've done that. I felt like it was something for years that I've known wanted to be birthed, and I've just had the fear. And so that's done my part for that. Now I just need to get it released. But now I'm just like, I know my next part is living more of my life, because there are things that I want to do, and I will go so far, I will look into it, and then I will find an excuse.
Whoa, it's time to jump.
I know.
Well, you're talking to the right person, because right now through our community, we're like studying the quantum leap. And yesterday I just taught on bold moves. Yeah. So like finding the boldest move possible and taking it. And, I've mentored over 24 people to their first million. And the ones that I notice go to that place fastest, because people are always like, I want fast. Yeah. Well, you know what? The fast is the result. The universe loves speed. So find as much courage as you can within and take the biggest jump you can, backed by the energy of faith, and the universe responds. The net always appears. That is so exciting for you. So I'm curious, like, I want to hold you accountable. What are some of those things on your list?
So there's like a whole mix of things, right? Okay. So business wise, I'm trying to steer away from a little bit, because I want to honor
for sure
that I feel like I'm being pulled to live.
Yeah. So what's on this live list?
Okay, so on the live list, I've always wanted to do like pole dancing.
Amazing.
So I want to try it. I might suck at it, but I want to try it. And I want to try like an improv class.
Oh, I did that in COVID.
Did you? Because I love speaking, and I just think it would be like a really cool thing to do. I want to go to Toastmasters, because I've never been there, and I trained with Lisa Nichols, and it was something that she talked about a lot, and I've just never got there. I know I want to go to more like networking events and stuff like that. And
this is all sounding kind of work related, by the way.
Yeah, all right. I do.
This is the generator in you.
So the only thing that isn't work related probably is like the pole dancing. Let me think. Yeah.
Okay, it sounds like you get to explore a little more. Is there any place you want to travel?
Yeah, I mean, traveling
back from trip.
Yeah, traveling is big, and we, like, me and my girls, we do a lot of traveling. So we've got Venice is next on our list, which we're going to in 3 weeks. So that'll be cool.
Yeah.
And then I've also, so I am stretching myself, like work related again, I know, but I'm going to like my mentors retreat in Madison in August, and then I'm going to Bridget James Ling's Freedom Queen Summit in end of September. So like I'm pushing myself and stretching myself and traveling to different places and stuff like that. But
so it sounds like pole dance, like bringing in pole dancing, you know, a few times a week, just to like, you know, really find
I feel
out
like I
what
want to use my body in a different way. You know, like I go to the gym, I work out and stuff, but I'm not a dancer. I can't dance. I've got 2 left feet. But I don't know, I felt a draw to it for a while. So I need to find a class and suck it up, because it's scary, right? Like I'm making a tit of myself.
I love it. I love it. Before you know it, we're going to see you on Instagram pole dancing. I love it. Very cool. So, where can our listeners find you and follow your journey when, especially seeing you on the other side of this void and what you create? How exciting. So, we'll put everything in the show notes, but if you let the listeners know what the best way to connect with you is.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hang out on Instagram is probably the best place to find me. So at Clare Garner Official. And if you want to come behind the scenes and be really involved in my journey and my navigation in real time, then I do have the private Telegram community. It's free and it's just for everyone to really come together, be real and raw, and just be vulnerable with each other as we all navigate the human experience. Drop me a DM on Instagram and I'll get you in there.
Oh, that's so easy. That's awesome. Thank you. It's very generous of you sharing that way. I'm so fascinated on like, I feel like there's something like brewing for you that you're not quite like admitting or seeing, or I don't know, it just feels like it's very much on the surface of like, and I don't know, maybe like perhaps work related, but it feels like more in this like joy and flow of like life and just abundance and the day-to-dayness. I can so relate. And I know that our listeners can as well. Like just, we often talk about this, like if you weren't working, you know, and you're not like on a resort or somewhere, what does that day look like?
Yeah.
And so many of us don't know. It's like, I'm bored, you know, put me back in the office. But here's the thing. This is where most, like a lot of people, a lot of humans have this problem when they retire, right? They lose their self-worth and their sense of purpose when they stop working. But here's like, you get to live that purpose, whether you're in the office or not. And so you're really discovering how it's going to come from within. And it's such a beautiful time. I love it. Congratulations. And thank you for sharing. I like during this time when you're in this space.
No, you're most welcome. There's one thing about me. I feel like everything I navigate, like I'm meant to share. Like I think it's, you know, I'm a 3/6 and I just feel like part of my purpose is to just share everything that I experience and just show others how I lead myself through it so that it can help them as well.
Yeah, that's good. So for those of you who don't know, let's give a summary of the 3/6. So I'm also a 3, but my 3 is unconscious. So I'm also a generator. So the 3 is the trial and error, the 3 line. So you're used to trying new things and learning from, and most likely you launch it before it's perfect. And then you learn from it and adapt. And that would be conscious for you. So that's really interesting. So you know that about yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, I wasn't so aware of it until human design and then embraced it, but like knew that I always acted quickly. And then tell us a little bit more about the 6 line.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a human design expert, but from what I know, so the 6 is all about being the role model. So it's all about going first and just being a natural born leader, which I'm also born on the 1st. So in numerology as well, like everything just kind of like, and I'm a Virgo. So it's like, you just got it all. It's like.
Yeah. So really the trial and error and then sharing and showing people that it's safe to be in this place where you don't know the void, as you call it. And even though it's uncomfortable, you know something really good's going to be on the other side.
Yeah. It's like it's the most uncomfortable place I could possibly be. So I know that it's the perfect place to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. My mentor, Bob Proctor, he used to always say, you know, like when we're in a place like this, he's like, this is really bad. So on the other side by
Yeah.
law has to be really good.
Yes.
You know, as long as I lean in, gain the lessons, grow from it, and don't avoid it.
Yes.
Oh, so you're doing a great job, Claire. I love it. Thank you for being that example. All right, everybody. So go follow Claire. All her information's in the show notes and join her Telegram group. I want to thank you for being here and listening to this call, to this podcast. And if you have any questions, I know Claire's very active on Instagram. You can reach out to either of us. And if this resonates, please share it with others. We love to get what we're up to out there in the world. So thank you very much. Any last words, Claire, as we wrap?
You know what? All I'm going to say is just be real, be raw, be vulnerable.
So good. Agreed. And expect abundance. Thank you.
Thank you.